Celeste is one of those gems you play once in a while, whether it's from a recommendation elsewhere, or it's in your collection, whether it being digital or physical. Granted, I have a handful of games like that, but Celeste was one I didn't expect to fully play, rather just to have it. I found it on sale at Best Buy on Black Friday last year when out and about, and boy oh boy was I even shocked to see a physical copy exist, since I know for indie games that can be a rarity. So I did what any sane person would do and bought the game. But me and Celeste have a very interesting history prior to me even buying the game and even now beating it. See, I never really gave it much attention due to it not being a game I would really see myself playing at all. I despised 2D platformers at that point and was huge on other genres of games. I was just bored of that sort of game and they were just too repetitive for me. Sure, a part of that reason was because it was bad, but I just found other game genres, as I just said, way more fun. It was just poor timing for me in this game. But then, fast forward a little bit to the Game Awards, and, well...
I have to do this alone. It's hard. Whoop. The award goes to Celeste.
Tonight, Celeste also wins the Games for Impact Award.
And man, my heart is beating so fast. I'm like at a loss for things to say all year about the reception. So there is one thing I want to say though. If Celeste has helped you come to terms with mental illness, I just want to say that you deserve credit for that. That change came from inside of you, and you're capable of a lot more. Thank you.
Seeing this game win the Best Independent Game Award live was really special, and it really struck a chord with me to realize that maybe this game might be worth a shot at some point. It was a moment I fully turned around and made it my goal to play the game, at least once. But as I mentioned, I bought it last November, so it took a while. So what the heck is this game even about? Well, allow me to read what the start of the instruction manual says. Welcome to Celeste Mountain. Madeline pulls into a remote parking lot after dark, hearing the crunch of tires on gravel as she slows to a tentative stop. She shifts into park and squints through the windshield in the darkness ahead. Is this the trailhead? This is where her GPS had led her, but it was an older model and it had certainly led her astray before. One of those reflective green road signs laid broken and illegible ahead. This probably isn't even the right trail, she muttered aloud to herself, and sighed. This was a stupid idea. No, this has to be it. Enough doubting. She breathed and tightened her hands on the steering wheel. This is it, Madeline. You can do this. But even as she thought the words, she knew they wouldn't quiet the voice from the back of her head, insisting that she give up and go home. The never-ending cycle. She was just so frustrated with herself. Why are you so nervous? She knew she couldn't answer that question any more than she could talk to herself about doubting her every move. It was time to try something different. Action. Before she could change her mind again, she quickly unsnapped her seatbelt, removed her key from the ignition, and stepped out of the car, grabbing her backpack from the passenger seat. Standing there, she exhaled heavily and began walking. Whatever happens next, at least she didn't give up without a fight. The story is really as simple as the introduction scene, but the amount of symbolism in this game makes it apparently obvious as to how important everything is in this world. So I guess it really isn't that simple. Climbing up Celeste Mountain is more than just a task to Madeline. It's a choice she made for herself in hopes of fixing what she finds wrong with herself. This game has a great way of showing, rather than telling, which helps the world feel more intriguing to me and various others. If the story was just plain told to me in a book, it would still be fantastic, but the way the game starts off and focuses on the core trial and error platforming and story anytime there's a break in between the gameplay itself really feels refreshing. You really get to be in a position of Madeline from the get-go, and it's special, honestly. The gameplay itself is tough. It's just a really tough 2D platformer that you progress through level after level until you finish that chapter entirely. Each chapter is filled with optional secrets too, such as the collectible strawberries you can find all over, or the crystal hearts in well-hidden spots. Even hidden levels called B-sides can be found via cassette tapes. These have you go on a mini puzzle to collect said tape, which in itself isn't too hard. However, that's just the beginning. The actual B-sides are just remix chapters, both gameplay-wise and music-wise. These chapters can be ruthless with difficulty and are really meant for completionists, or if you just want to test your luck on these levels. Between these and the main levels, there is quite a lot that is offered, and obviously, I should have enjoyed the game right out the gate, right? However, this was the part of the game that was the main detractor initially, but something clicked when I played recently and I actually enjoyed the trial and error and fixing in my mistakes each level I got to. I felt motivated more and more after every mistake and barely got irritated, which caught me off guard. I would laugh or shrug off each death despite the high numbers because I knew the end goal was in sight, or in Madeline's case, the summit, not the end goal, but you get the idea. They even encourage you on the tips screen before levels load in, and one of them caught my eye while I was first playing. Be proud of your death count. The more you die, the more you're learning. With most games that are made to be hard and teach the player through trial and error, most of them from my memory never tell you to be proud of the death counter. Usually you're also punished by losing vital items in such a hard game. However, with Celeste, it's just starting the level over, which makes it a bit less stressful. Gameplay aside, each level shows layers of the mountain all the way until the summit in such a really interesting way. Each backdrop and overall design of the levels felt fluid and blended well together, which made me enjoy my time all the way into the very end. Some of my all-time favorite chapters in the game for scenery alone are chapters 4 and 6. Both of them have really nice color choice and really show the beauty in Celeste Mountain. Heck, these chapters have my favorite completion artwork in general, plus music. So, the characters you meet in this game are also very unique, from a photographer or Instapixer known as Theo to your own reflection. The game just fleshes out these characters to a T. There are moments in this game that feel real and, as a whole, help Madeline and others feel more attachable, I guess. I remember finding Theo for the first time and knowing nothing about him at all, but the calming music and the atmosphere in this desolate mountain really made it feel like finding him was like a safe, warm log cabin of sorts. The warm glow of the campfire and calming music really made the interactions you had with him feel pure. The moments are memorable, and it's like that for other characters all throughout the game, and even if this game doesn't have a lot of them, they make more with less, so to speak. Also, Bird. Even the music, which was wonderfully composed, really helped speak to me before playing the game, and in fact was a major driving force into me even playing. The chords and the amount of depth that each song had made every moment in this game feel special in some sort of way. Some songs were haunting, such as this one, or others are really inviting or soothing to the core. Even the remix songs in the B-side levels are amazing, and are a major reason why I'm excited to play those levels even more after completion. The art style, music, and character building all help form a foundation for a game that blew my mind every time I progressed. Even if you don't intend to play the game, I implore you to at least check the soundtrack out or just look up really good art from the game. Whether it's official or fan art, people are passionate about Madeline and her adventures on Celeste Mountain. Celeste as an experience in general was something that I didn't ever expect to fully fall in love with. At the very least, I would just simply beat the game and bam, that's it. But as I was playing, I was looking into the actual levels and trying to figure out some symbolic meanings behind each one. So let me explain. Chapter 1, The Forsaken City, could represent the loneliness and depression Madeline feels during the very start of this journey, as she ventures off into this lonely city. With how desolate the city looks, it really helps give that feeling and really is an interesting spot. Even when you first meet Theo, he mentions how it's abandoned, hence the name. The broken buildings and advertisements for certain products in this area are all very telling of what this place could have been. Chapter 2, The Old Sight, is like fighting yourself and trying to move past that gut feeling and realizing how hard it can truly be. The level itself is only triggered to start after looking into a mirror which is a reflection of Madeline herself. By the way, I'll be referring to her as Madeline for the rest of the video. The rest of this level is a very warped version of what the Old Sight actually looks like because it is all taking place inside Madeline's head during a dream sequence. The actual level itself and how it's designed is really kind of telling of just the whole fighting back, especially with a last scene involving Madeline or your own reflection, which is the first proper boss fight of the game. However, Madeline does end up waking up at the end of this, and everything seems to be back to normal, except it's not because she's still dreaming and is getting a phone call next to where she was sleeping. The character that calls Madeline on the phone in this sequence when she's still dreaming is completely unknown, and with context clues and looking into the game's files, it could be deemed that this could possibly be Madeline's ex. The next chapter, Chapter 3, is Celestial Resort, and to me, I viewed it as not wanting to move on. Mr. Oshiro is the owner of the Celestial Resort, and it is long past its heyday. Yet, he clings on and acts as if guests will come by. This alone made the area feel so depressing, and it struck a chord with me in how sometimes you end up losing more of yourself by clinging onto the past and living blindly to what's right in front of you. Mr. Oshiro as a character is very interesting and really shows off an interesting aspect to clinging on to the past as a whole, and it was well put together. Chapter 4, or Golden Ridge, is about fighting back, and the symbolism with the wind pushing you around, making you want to stop trying to reach the summit, is pretty interesting. Its overall design just makes you want to push forward despite that death counter. On top of it, the very end of the chapter has one of the most powerful scenes in the entire game. I'm going to go ahead and just show you a clip here. This, by far, has to be the best portrayal of anxiety that I have ever seen in any game or media. It truly gave me chills and a newfound perspective on how to handle panic attacks, even if a little bit in the long haul. I am now always thinking of the feather during times where all feels lost, and it's something I won't ever overlook. This scene is just art and really resonates with me. Chapter 5, or known as the Mirror Temple, represents fear, plain and simple. The mirrors in the temple take advantage of Madeline's insecurities and are extremely hostile and even visible. Even Theo experiences something similar by being trapped in a glass container. This may be pushing it, but due to him being more known on Instapics, it could be him feeling trapped by social media and the eyes that watch what he does. Or even another possibility is due to him feeling stuck in life, as he talks about in an earlier chapter. These can be interpreted however which way you want, but I think the mirrors making insecurities become real is definitely something that I feel is true, because, I mean, it just makes sense to me, so... Chapter 6, or Reflection, is about coming to terms with yourself and accepting who you really are. The start being a simple vent chat with Theo, and it really feels heartfelt. However, fear sinks in its head back in through Battleline, and the feather scene gets brought back. However, even after getting the breathing right, the feather gets sliced in half, and Battleline is extremely condescending about the entire ordeal, saying, "You think you can simply stop me with just a feather?" This alone was a gut-wrenching moment, and the self-loathing, anxiety, and depression all eat at Madeline. Until, after a bit of self-reflecting and realizing that this goal isn't met, her true happiness is at stake here. She ends up working together with her anxiety and fears to get back all the way up to the summit. It's a really powerful chapter, and with both Madeline and Battleline working amongst each other at the end, allows her to use 2 dashes at once instead of just 1. So the connection with gameplay and story is just, it's simple, but to me it was just the build up to just getting just an extra dash with the context of the story was just really well put together. Now, the summit, also known as the final chapter, is about Madeline conquering herself and the depression she had. She did the impossible and got to the top of Celeste Mountain. Through trial and error, fall after fall, she finally made it to the top. This moment at the end of the game is where you see Madeline stand tall at the summit as the sun sets, or rises. I don't know. It's a time where you can really feel at ease. She started this climb to not feel useless and can actually do something that was worthwhile. The credit scene as well, as she climbs back down with Battleline, and you get to see the raw chemistry between the two without any words and just through pieces of art, just felt really impactful for some reason. The fact that she was able to now manage her emotions and isn't stuck in a rut, and to see both of them nod at each other's throats after all the game shows us, really strikes a chord with me and I assume many others. The actual end cutscene is also wholesome as well, or with all the strawberries you collect actually contribute to the ending you get. Oh, you use these strawberries to make a pie, by the way. Now, each ending is basically the same because it's just a get-together of all the characters you met through this journey, but the banter they all share feels so genuine. I mean, the ending I got involved Madeline not collecting that many strawberries, like maybe around 35, and not everyone enjoying the pie because of it. It was honestly really silly, and it made me really smile after the brutal trials and errors I had whilst playing and trying to climb Celeste Mountain. As of the time recording, I have beaten the game, but I have yet to beat the post-game chapter known as Core, or the DLC chapter known as Farewell. As far as I can gather, these chapters flesh out more of the story as a whole and give more levels to push through. I don't want to make assumptions about what these levels could mean in regards to Madeline and her mental state, but if I were to guess regarding Core, it would be about finding peace of mind and learning more about the mountain itself and why climbing it was so important to her. Now, with that all said, I do intend to 100% the entire game over time with my backlog and personal life, so I will make a follow-up video when this is done to discuss these chapters in more detail and the overall grind for the fabled 100%. Celeste as a game is something special. I struggle to find the words to describe how happy and emotional the game got me, and I can tell you by the end of it, I was cheering about how I finally did what I thought was impossible. The gameplay ties in so well to the struggles of Madeline's mind, and as does the level design and music, but the transition from story element being felt through gameplay, and then being felt into the real world, is something amazing to me. Like, beating a hard segment in one of these chapters feels super gratifying because these levels are meant to be tough and push you against all odds in some cases. I remember I had to play with the assist mode back then and even struggled with that since I was just in the wrong mindset to play a game like that. But after a car trip with my friend and letting them play the game when parked, it really felt special watching someone else experience the game. Seeing them fail and laugh it off and even admit that the game would frustrate them made me realize I wasn't bad or awful at this game, I was just insecure. The moment in general felt heartfelt and genuine, and let me see the outside perspective. It inspired me to pick up the game after not playing it since I got it on Black Friday, and put my skills to the test. As the old quote in Undertale goes, "You are filled with determination." I was dead set on completing the game. Each chapter, each level, everything was just so important to me. And sure, I can imagine that there can be flaws found somewhere through this game, but I never cared and was so madly in love with the experience this game brought to the table. Celeste is special to me, and it's way more than the game to me. Thanks for watching.